Good evening, family. What's going on? It is 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on a Monday night. So you know what time it is. It is time for the Monday Message Recall, the opportunity we take to recap the sermon that was delivered this past Sunday at the Southside Church of Christ, 800 Elmira Avenue, Durham, North Carolina. And so you can catch us online or on the premises. And so we are in the house tonight. So y'all know the rules. I'm John Merriweather, the online minister for the Southside Everywhere campus. And just want to welcome you to the conversation on tonight. We are fresh off of coming back from Atlanta, Georgia, for the Nehemiah Summit. Great time, and somebody refers to that as one of our family reunions for the brotherhood. And so we was there, and it was not just a great time of theological explanation and exploration, but it was also a good time of practical ministry improvement and training and implementation. So we had a great time fellowshipping, learning about ministry, how to take it from good to better to best as we can in the Lord, amen, as we strive for excellence, but also strive uh, uh, to spread the message of the gospel of Christ throughout the land. And so we had a great time, and we are coming back high off of that. But we also want to just make space and make time for you to go ahead and get the NMs into place. Y'all know the rules. You know how we operate. Go get your mom and them, your daddy them, your uncle them, your auntie them, your cousin them, your mans and them, your friends and them, your girls and them, your boys and them, all the NMs to come and be part of this conversation on tonight. And yesterday, we had a lesson from none other than Brother Devin Cole. Devin Cole, one of our outstanding preachers at the Southside Church of Christ in Durham, who is currently in charge of our spiritual formation class and did a wonderful job with that. So he had a word to continue in the conversation that we've been having in this realm or this study of we can't lose. That we are built different. He continued in that vein, continuing in that theme for the month of November, as we talk about the reward that we have of being in covenant relationship with Jesus Christ. So we got everybody coming in here. We got Brother Henry. Good to have you here from the Southern Hills Church of Christ. Good to have you here, my brother. And then we also have my pops up in the house. We have Dad up in the house. Good to see you, Dad. Looking forward to Thanksgiving with y'all here in a few more days here as we gather around the table once more and again. And so go ahead and put the name of the sermon in here and also the scripture text as well. Now, Brother Cole, that's my pew mate. I want y'all to know that's my pew mate. We sit on the same pew when I'm there in Durham, but I got to go ahead and get on to him because he had a lengthy lesson text for us on yesterday. And so I got to tell him, like, bro, when I'm recapping, you got to keep that short. Got to keep that short. Help preserve the voice a little bit here. And Deneen is back in town. She's been globetrotting around the world, y'all. But she is under the weather, so she is recouping. So y'all pray for her that she recovers her health at this time. But go ahead. All right, got my sister up in here. Good to see you, sis. Good to have you here as well. But go ahead, drop in the sermon text. I'll give you another minute here to drop in the sermon text as we recap the sermon on tonight. And looking forward. I hope everybody will have a great holiday. We are at the Southside Church of Christ. We are preparing for our holiday traditions of being able to serve the community. So there are families that we're looking to give meals away to. We have items that have been donated by the congregation, and we're using those for meal prepping kits to assist families in need, so that they can experience the joys of holiday and being around family, and also being having a reason to be thankful. We also got the Turkey Bowl coming up, co-ed Turkey Bowl, flag football at its best. And so we're looking forward to some of the images that are coming back from there. All right. All right, all right. We got Sister Henderson. Good to see you, Sister Henderson. All right, we got it. She says, "When you've been dealt a bad hand," from Daniel on chapter 6. We're going verses 6. Sister Henderson, you can slide in an extra verse on me. I got 6 through 16, but hey, it might be 6 through 17. We're going to see when we read the text on this evening. And so good to have y'all. And when you've been dealt a bad hand. And so we're going to talk about it on tonight. All right. Here we go. Daniel, the chapter 6, beginning with verse 6. I got my T up in here. All right. So that's going to help us out as we discuss this on this evening. So as we got it on tonight, it says, "So these governors and satraps thrown before the king and said thus to him, King Darius, live forever. Sorry. All the governors of the kingdom and the administrators and the satraps and the counselors and the advisors have counseled together to establish a royal statute and to make a firm decree that whoever petitions any god or man for 30 days except you, O king, shall be cast in the den of lions. Now, O king, establish the decree and sign the writing so that it cannot be changed according to the law of the Medes and the Persians, which does not alter. Therefore, King Darius, or some people say Darius, signed the written decree. Now, when Daniel knew that the writing was signed, he went home, and in his upper room, with his windows open toward Jerusalem, he knelt down on his knees 3 times that day and prayed and gave thanks before his God, as was his custom since early days. Then these men assembled and found Daniel praying and making supplication before his God. And they went before the king and spoke concerning the king's decree. Have you not signed a decree that every man who petitions any god or man within 30 days, except you, O king, shall be cast in the den of lions? The king answered and said, the thing is true, according to the law of the Medes and the Persians, which does not alter. So they answered and said before the king that Daniel, who is one of the captives from Judah, does not show due regard for you, O king, or for the decree that you have signed, but makes his petition 3 times a day. And the king, when he heard these words, was greatly displeased with himself and set his heart on Daniel to deliver him. And he labored till the going down of the sun to deliver him. Then these men approached the king and said to the king, O king, that it is the law of the Medes and Persians that no decree or statute which the king establishes may be changed. So the king gave the command, and they brought Daniel and cast him into the den of lions. But the king spoke, saying to Daniel, your God, whom you serve continually, he will deliver you. We'll go ahead and throw 17 in there. Then a stone was brought and laid at the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his own signet ring and with the signets of his lords, that the purpose concerning Daniel might not be changed. And so ends the reading of the word on this evening. And so we, brother Cole came with the idea, or came with the sermon text. As you know, we've been studying the reward of being the reward of that we receive by being followers, by being disciples, by being in covenant relationship with Christ. There are perks, there's benefits, there's a reward that comes with that. And we know that there's an eternal reward, right? But we also know that there is a reward that we receive. There are benefits that we receive even in this part of life. And so brother Cole came with this idea of when you've been dealt a bad hand. And he's looking at this text, and he's drawing this text in comparison with this story that he told us. And he said he drew this from the idea of when he was a younger man that he learned how to play cards. And playing cards in our community almost serves as a rite of passage. It is a rite of acceptance. It is a rite of maturity. It is a sign that you are no longer considered a child. Even though I got a story about my cousin Marcus, who was 10 years old, and we slapped some cards against some individuals back in the day. But that's neither here nor there. But he was saying that how it is a rite of passage in our community, but you couldn't just be anybody and get in the card game. And some of us know and some of us understand that when it comes down to playing cards, that cards is serious business in our community. And there are times where the game is so serious is that it intensifies and people have to be separated. You know, it goes from being a friendly game to a heated confrontation. And, you know, sometimes the furniture has to move, as he puts it. Sometimes, you know, it gets so intense that people start shouting and start talking in conversation and words that you normally wouldn't use. And, you know, that it is intensified. You know, you cannot just put the card down on the table, that you got to go ahead and be able to slap the card and either make it stick or make it spin to let people know that you are serious about the business of cards. And he says that it's sort of like a coming of age story, right? And it's that you couldn't just be old enough to play the game, but you had to be wise enough, you had to be mature enough, and that somebody has to vet you. Somebody has to sign off that you are worthy at a seat at the table. And he says that one of those ways that that is done is that somebody was playing and mid-hand had to get up from the table for some reason, oftentimes to use the restroom, and they say, hey, so-and-so, come over here and play the rest of this hand for me. And that was the sign that you knew what you were doing at the card table. And so if they did it off of that, say, hey, I'm just going to go ahead and we're just going to have to play this out. I'm just going to have to hold on to this until, you know, we get to a break in the action, so to speak. Then that was meaning that you wasn't bona fide. You didn't deserve to have a seat at the table. And so he gave the story that explained that his mother would give him lunch money for the week, but the lunch money was just enough to get the school lunch. It wasn't enough to go ahead and get the stuff that he would want to get from the snack line. You know, the pizza, you know, the chicken tenders, those things. And so what he did was he learned how to flip that money, and he flipped that money by learning how to be good at cards. And so he would use his skills at the card game to play and get money for the snack line, so to speak. And he said that even continued when he was in college. He continued to play cards. And he said the thing was he was good enough to have people, you know, to take people's money, but he would give people a chance to win their money back, but it was going to be double or nothing. And so he would use that to be able to buy the things in college that he wanted to buy. But he said the thing about playing cards was he would hate when he would get handed a bad hand, because you're so limited to what you could do when you get that bad hand. He says, and sometimes you can't just throw the bad hand in, but you got to go ahead and play it out. And so what does that mean to us in this day and time? He's like, many of us are right now experiencing life at a point that we have been dealt a bad hand. Some of us have been affected by the government shutdown. Some of us are missing out on our checks, on our benefits. Come on, somebody. It says while they are playing Russian roulette with people's lives in the government, people that have not been able to get their checks and get their benefits and compensation, and even though they say, hey, we're going to give you a bonus to make up for this past shutdown, that doesn't reverse the notice of eviction that people have, because the bonus is not going to hit by the time that the eviction notice or the time that the eviction is going to be executed. It's not going to help those that have had their cars, in certain possessions repossessed. It's not going to help those that were turned away from daycare. It's not going because they couldn't pay the weekly fee that you got to pay to hold that spot for your child. some people have been dealt a bad hand, not because of what they have done, but just because the circumstances of life. For those that have been laid off, for those that have been unemployed, you've been dealt a bad hand. You can, for those that cannot receive their health care, because the ones who established it are now playing and holding that health care hostage for people that are in dire need of their medication, of their treatment, and for their doctor's visit. You have to learn how to work with a bad hand when life deals it to you. You've been dealt a bad hand. And so just like people in this day and time have been displaced from their family because they may have been born in this country, but they may not have the paperwork that reflects it. They've been separated from their family just because even though they may have the paperwork, they're under suspicion of being here illegally, and they've been separated from their family, from their friends. They've been dealt a bad hand. And so as we look at this, we look at how Daniel, because of his faith, even though he was doing right in the sight of God, even though he was one of the outstanding citizens of this Babylonian exile that took place up for the southern kingdom in 587 BC, even though he was in good standing with the king, in good standing with the government of that time, he was in a situation where the deck was stacked against him. But it's good news that even when the deck is stacked against us in the game of life, even when we're dealt a bad hand, we have somebody that can help us and deal with it. And see, in Daniel chapter 6, Daniel is thrown into the lion's den, not to any fault of his own, but because he had some haters out there. He had some people that was jealous of him. He had some people that didn't like him. And so when people don't like you, just like in today's time, just like back then, they moved in shady ways to come at a way to put you at a disadvantage. So they worked and they manipulated the king, King Darius or King Darius, however way you want to pronounce it. They manipulated the king to sign an edict that would put Daniel in a bad situation. But Daniel was still, even though he was dealt a bad hand, he didn't kneel down, he didn't bow down, he didn't stop doing what he knew how to do, because he had to learn, or he had learned to work with the bad hand that he has been dealt with. And so as we look at this on tonight, Brother Cole wanted us to look at three movements in this text. He said, you got to remember that even though you're dealt a bad hand, you got to remember, number one, remember the dealer. And he wants us to know that we understand the one that controls the hands and controls life itself. And he says, even though the people had reported Daniel, worked with Daniel, they knew Daniel, and since they couldn't find an issue with the character of Daniel, they couldn't find an issue with the work ethic of Daniel, they couldn't find an issue with the performance of Daniel, they had to create their own issue. And so they moved the goalposts. And we are living in a day and time when people can't get you in a way that suits them, when people can't get you to fall in a way that benefits them, they will move the goalposts in the middle of the game. It is no different than when you're playing a game of cards, and most famously Uno, when people want to shift the rules in the middle of the card game and say, hey, now we stacking these draw twos. We stacking these wild draw fours. We stacking the reverses. We stacking the skip U's. And until it's a time where it's not, when it's inconvenient to them, and then they say, you know what, we can't stack that. You got to go ahead and take that draw two. You got to go ahead and take that draw four. Do we have any witnesses here on the evening? But they try to change the rules of the game so that you will not be a benefit, that you can operate and be prosperous the way that you are accustomed to. So the rule that they changed is they changed the rules of worship. And the king assumed that everybody was in agreement with this law, but they weren't all in agreement. These were the agreement of three individuals. Somebody said the dirty three. The dirty three made a move, and the king signed it, and to the law of the Medes and the Persians. And if you didn't know, the law of the Medes and the Persians were a popular way for of signing covenants and agreements and treaties at that time. And so they were considered to be irrevocable, meaning that once they were implemented, you couldn't take them back because of the language that was forged in that agreement. And so realize that they used this agreement to try to hinder and try to control Daniel and put them where they wanted. But you have to understand that even though they tried to derail us, that we serve an all-knowing, all-powerful God who knows how that we didn't create the situation or the circumstances that have dealt us the bad hand, but he knows how to flip a bad hand and make it good. And so what we have to remember is that even though we're dealt a bad hand, that God can deal us a card that reverses, that changes, that that shifts the momentum that somebody else thinks that they have set up for us. He can shift that and work things back up into our favor. I read it someplace that he says that he prepares a table in the presence of our enemies. That doesn't mean that our enemies won't be at the table. That means that the enemies will be witness to the power of God moving in our life, even though they mean us no good. And then the second point that he wanted us to realize is that he wants us to remain at the table. We have to understand that just because we're dealt a bad hand doesn't mean that we throw in our hand and that we run away from the challenge. He says that Daniel, when he found out about the law, he didn't run away from his faith. He didn't compromise. He didn't compromise his belief. And sometimes people will try to get you to shift and use that bad hand to say, okay, now it's time for me to get along, to get along, so to speak. It is a sign for us to get into the game and play by their rules. But no, Daniel went home and continued to pray just like he did since while he was in Jerusalem and when he was brought out into exile. And now when they passed this new law, he says, I'm not going to let this make me leave the table of faith. He stood steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord. He stood steadfast in his faith. And so in this message or this idea, he says, brother Cole says, we got to have the message or the Kenny Rogers theology. You got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, know when to run. You never count your money while you're sitting at the table. There's been time enough to count your winnings when the dealing's done. He said, I know that I got to learn. I got to go ahead and I got to hold on to this hand. I got to hold on to the hand of God because he's the only one that can change the hand that I've been dealt. And so he remained faithful, and he used the idea of his faith that he was going to stand with the hand of God. And even when this led him to the lions, then he could have went ahead and said, saw the lion and said, hold on, you know what? Y'all right. I need to go ahead and bow down to y'all's kings and bow down to y'all's rule. But what he wants us to understand is that life will put us in a situation where we have to make a decision if God is for us or God is against us, and we got to go ahead and choose God despite the situation. He could have changed his mind. He could have stopped praying. He could have stopped playing. He could have stopped pursuing God, but he didn't. And sometimes when we're dealt a bad hand, we got to realize that we got to continue to play with the hand that we're dealt. And sometimes we want to throw in the bad hand because we haven't played them enough to realize that God can do something magnificent, that God can do something wonderful with the bad hand that we're dealt. And it makes our faith stronger when we're played the bad hand and go ahead and let God be God and do the things and do the transformation that he's capable of doing, and saying, God, if you worked it out before, I know that you can work it out again. And I see your Sister King, Sister Key, you said you're going to stay at the table. We got to go ahead and remain in faith and go ahead and hold on to God and overcome and remain at the table and overcome that bad hand that we're dealt. And so then he says we got the last thing is that we got to rely on a partner. we got to realize that we're not at the table by ourselves, but we are at the table with Jesus Christ. And sometimes the hand that you're dealt will put you in the mercy of your partner. And Daniel enters into the lion's den alone, but he has to realize that God was already there. Come on now, I want you to understand. Sometimes they make a position at the table for you, but you got to realize that God is already at the table before you sit down. And you got to realize that you don't have to do it on your own, but you have to realize that God's hand is on your life. And some people will not be able to resist or rest because they know that God is operating on you. Look. You see there that has Daniel relied on God. He had a reminder from King Darius. King Darius was up there trying to think all day and all night how to deliver Daniel. And then he reminded Daniel before he threw him into the lion's den that Daniel, your partner is God. And I know that your God will deliver you. I've done everything I could do, Daniel. My hands are tied. I've been dealt the hand. But I know if anybody could do something with the hand that you dealt, that your God can do it. And God was there before Daniel went into the lion's den. And when Daniel was thrown in, we read in the story that how God shut the mouth of the lions so that they didn't do any harm to Daniel. They didn't try to eat Daniel, nor did they try to scratch or rip Daniel apart. Sometimes we got to realize that even though we're facing the lion, that God is the lion tamer, that God has them under control, that God will make even your enemies bow down and be at your service. And he says he's not only the God of the hills, but he's also the God of the valley. We got to remember that God has given man dominion, and God is the dominion given. And so he went in just like he did with Adam and gave Adam the dominion over the animals, that God can enter into the situation. And God entered into the situation and gave Daniel dominion, said, Daniel, these lions will bow down to you. Why? Because I'm in the midst, I'm in the presence, I'm in control, I am changing, and I'm flipping the hand. And so as we come up here on time, he said what Daniel had to realize is that all he had was his faith. That was his one and impossible, but that faith was strong enough for God to be able to work and do his wonder working power. He said, Daniel, all I need is your faith, and I will take control and do the rest. He said that God wasn't just present, but God was able, and God was there to rescue Daniel. And so we got to remember that when we're dealt a bad hand, that we got to go ahead and continue to play to win. And so sometimes when you're at the table with your partner will tell you that play to win. In other words, you do the best that you can, and whatever you're not able to do, don't worry, I got you. It reminded me of a time I was sitting there and me and my dad was playing spades against my uncle and my cousin, and we was down bad. We was down at the we was down big bad, y'all. We was down big bad, and it came down to it. We was down about 100, close to 100 points. So we had to do what we call a blind 10. Not even, and that means that we're going to bid 10 books, not even seeing the hand that we're going to get. And so we got it, and we looked at it, and I was like, I'm down bad, Dad. And Dad was like, we just going to play to win, son. And whatever, it turned out that whatever I had, my dad made good. I could throw out a jack and that jack would walk. Come on, somebody. And it ended up that we ended up running the table on them. And they couldn't believe it. They was like, y'all ain't about to win this game. But sure enough, we went. Why? Because my partner had the hand. Somebody said my partner had the hand. And we got to realize that God is our partner. And there's no hand that life can deal us that he can't turn around, that he can't adjust, that he can't work out for our good. And our enemy might think that they got us and that we're going to fall, but our God is able to do exceedingly above all that we can ask or even think. So I want to encourage you on tonight that your bad hand will cost you your faith. And so the cost of getting through a bad hand is your faith. It's going to cost you to put your faith on the table and go all in dependent on God. Oh, that's our thing, man. All in. So we have to trust that it's the gospel, it's not a gamble. And we're not, anytime that we put our faith in God, it's not a gamble, but it is the foundation and the surety of the reward of having a partner that we can trust. So that is it on today. I hope that helped you. I hope that served you. Look, somebody say, I'm going all in. I'm going all in. I'm trusting my partner. I'm trusting God. I will trust in the Lord. I know that he will fight my battles. I know that he will do what I am unable to do. I know that he will deliver me. I know you might be down bad right now, but stay at the table. Hold on to your faith, because in due time, remember, your faith is a seed, and in due time, you will reap the reward and the fruit and the benefit and the harvest of your faith. So come on, family. That is it on today. Look, thank y'all for sliding through. Thank y'all for helping me. Hopefully next week, Deneen will feel better and we'll be able to do this together. But look, if you want to be part of a spiritual community where you can enter into this conversation every day, you can join us at Southside EW.com. That is our online ministry. That is our Facebook group and soon to be YouTube channel. You can join us and be part of this conversation every single day and receive the spiritual encouragement that you need to either become a disciple or to remain a disciple when life deals you a hard hand, from the testimony of the individuals in that community. So thank y'all for coming through. Brother Henry, good to see you. Sis, good to see you. To my sister and to my parents, good to have y'all here on tonight. Good blessing. God bless y'all all on tonight. Sister Henderson, good to have you here as well. So look, come back next Monday. We'll try to do the same thing once more again. And you're always welcome to join us for Wednesday night Bible study at 6 o'clock on Wednesday. You can meet us at 800 Elmira. Not 6 o'clock. Sorry, 7 o'clock on Wednesday. You can meet us at either online or on the premises at 800 Elmira Avenue. And then, of course, if the Lord blesses us to do the same, we will have worship service this upcoming Sunday, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Look forward to seeing you there, and we'll save you a seat even in the either in the main section sanctuary or the virtual sanctuary. We'll meet and greet you and fellowship you as we continue to be all in on the gospel. All right, family, God bless. We'll see you a little bit later. And you know what I'm about to do. I'm about to go find something to eat. All right, take care, family. We'll see you at the next appointed time.